Welcome back to our Journalist Roundtable. We touched on immigration, now on to another topic that comes up a lot in Pima County, roads, namely new opposition against the proposed Interstate 11 corridor, which would help commercial traffic bypass I-10. And Dan, your paper covered this big news down in Sahuarita.
Yeah, about 3 years ago, the town said, yeah, we like the idea of attaching I-11 to I-19 at El Toro Road, which is right in the middle of Sahuarita. And 3 years later, there's a big meeting, and about 100 people who live in that area said, we don't like the idea. We didn't know that you had signed off on that. This is bad, bad, bad for us because it's going to go right through our neighborhoods. And the town now has backed off on that.
The city of Tucson also raising some flags and saying, what about our existing area that happens to be in this corridor?
Who in southern Arizona is actually in favor of I-11?
ADOT?
But they're not in southern Arizona. You know, that's a state agency. If you look at the people that live in Avra Valley certainly don't want a massive freeway, shoved through there. The city of Tucson has a lot of our water infrastructure is actually located out there where we do recharge for CAP water. So the city's opposed to it. Most of the members of the Pima County Board of Supervisors are pretty adamantly opposed to this. Who likes it?
Well, the idea is that we have to look to the future, and the future means we're going to grow. And so I think a lot of people in our area would be okay with the idea of expanding I-19. They just don't want a new interstate coming through. They don't see the need.
Sarah, oftentimes though when ADOT releases their study areas, they overshoot just to be sure that everyone knows we're going to study. It doesn't exactly mean there's going to be pavement on this piece of property. Possibly overreaction at this point?
You know, I don't really know that there is a way to overreact to a giant freeway coming through your neighborhood. I think that this is something that on our letters to the editor on the editorial pages at the Star, we have a ton of letters about this. People are very upset about it. It's raising the issue and different points of view about it, and I would say it's like 90% against. I don't think that people are overreacting to the idea that this could fundamentally change our area, our ecosystem, and not to mention just the hassle of having a freeway construction and all of that. I don't think it is an overreaction.
Let's shift and talk about some other headlines that came out this week. Arizona's Attorney General talking about recreational marijuana and saying, let's have the legislature, not the voters, talk about it first. Does that make political sense?
The issue when it comes to measures that are passed by the voters is they're very difficult to change on purpose. The lawmakers can't go back and modify. That's one of the issues that people are talking about with the Sanctuary City initiative, that it would sort of be set in stone and the city council wouldn't be able to change it. And the point Brnovich is making at the state level is that if the voters institute recreational marijuana, it wouldn't be possible for the legislature to go back in and tweak that. So if it's going to pass, why not just pass it? And that way you can make it so that things, if you need to change things in 2 or 3 years, some of those regulations, it would be much easier to do. You wouldn't have to go back to the voters and get that passed again.
This is probably a good strategy, though. The most recent state to pass this, I believe, was Michigan. They did it through the legislature. There are now 11 states that have recreational marijuana laws. Interesting enough, in the past couple of days, 1/3 of the communities, more than 500 in Michigan, have said, we don't want these dispensaries here yet. Doesn't mean that they're opposed to it. There's just various questions that they have. And again, if you do it legislatively, you can answer and address and make changes that are going to be a lot more smart than if the voters pass it.
Sarah, this is the Wild West, Republican-led leadership. We're talking about supporting legal marijuana. That's a headline in itself.
The legislature has had a history, especially recently, of trying to sort of negate what the voters are able to do and limit what initiatives can be raised. And having the very conservative legislature, you have the sort of moralistic, drugs or marijuana is bad for you, versus the economic opportunity sort of approach. So I would be interested to see what the legislature could come up with, and I wonder how much of that would be shaped by the corporate interests involved for and against.
Anyone else thinking about the fact that we have an election that would be coming up soon, and maybe we have the Attorney General who maybe would want to throw his name in the hat for the governor?
Well, people are saying he's been running for something else for a long time, and this This kind of looks like it, but I'm going to just take it on face value that he is trying to get a hold of, get in front of this one and try to control things.
But you haven't forgotten the nunchuck video, which was
I haven't forgotten a lot of things about him. So.
Yeah. Recreational marijuana and nunchucks, probably not a good combo.
No, but it gets his name
be.
and his face out there, and if we don't know who the next Republican candidate is for governor, certainly gives us something to talk about.
It certainly does.
All right, my thanks to all three of you.